Hey, English learners. Welcome back to Mr. English Fluent Tutor, and welcome back to another wonderful episode. I am Anna.
And I am Abel.
Abel, can I ask you a question?
Of course.
What do you think about when you hear the words, train your mouth to speak English?
Honestly, Anna, my first picture is sitting completely still at a desk for hours, staring at phonetic symbols in a thick textbook, or maybe forcing myself to sound exactly like a Hollywood actor overnight. I always imagined it was this huge, serious, almost painful process that required total perfection before I could open my mouth.
Oh, I completely understand why you would think that, Abel. And so many learners feel the exact same way. But here is the beautiful truth. Training your mouth to speak English has almost nothing to do with textbooks or sounding like a movie star. It is pure physical muscle memory, exactly like going to the gym. It is built through small, simple, daily physical adjustments and speaking out loud every single day.
Wow, that actually changes everything for me already, Anna. So it is less about memorizing rules in my head and more about physically moving my jaw, lips, and tongue in new ways. That honestly sounds so much more manageable. I love the idea that it is like a gym workout for your face muscles.
Exactly, Abel. And that gym idea is the perfect place for us to start today. When you go to the gym, no one expects you to lift the heaviest weight on your very first visit. You start small, you stay consistent, and over many sessions, your muscles grow stronger. Your mouth works in the exact same beautiful way when learning English pronunciation.
That makes so much sense, Anna, and I think a lot of learners, including myself at one point, put so much pressure on themselves to sound perfect immediately. We forget that our jaw and our tongue and our lips are literally learning brand new physical movements that they've never practiced before in our native language.
Yes, 100%. And that pressure you just described is one of the biggest invisible walls that stops people from making real progress. So today, Abel, you and I are going to walk through some of the most practical and honestly beautiful ways that any learner at any level can start physically training their mouth every single day without any stress at all.
I'm genuinely excited about this conversation, Anna, and I think our listeners are going to find so many of these ideas really refreshing because they're not the typical advice you hear. They feel human, they feel real, and they feel very much like things you can actually do in your normal daily life.
That is exactly right, Abel. And let us begin with a really lovely analogy that I want you to think about. Imagine you're holding a fresh, full bottle of water. That bottle represents your daily vocal energy, your physical capability to produce English sounds out loud. Now, what happens if you just let that water pour slowly onto the floor without using it?
Well, you lose it all completely, Anna. You end up with an empty bottle and nothing to show for it at the end of the day. That feels like such a waste. I think I know where you're going with this, and I already love it. It sounds like silent reading might be pouring that water onto the floor without meaning to.
You got it exactly right, Abel. When you spend your English practice time only reading silently in your head, you are pouring your precious vocal water onto the floor. Your eyes are working, your brain is processing, but your actual mouth muscles are completely still and getting zero physical training. The water is just disappearing into the ground.
Oh, wow, that image is so powerful. So the solution is to drink the water intentionally, right? To actually pour that vocal energy into something that makes your mouth move. I'm guessing that means replacing even just 10 minutes of silent reading every morning with loud, active speaking practice instead.
Precisely, Abel. And that loud, active practice has a specific name that we will talk about more today, and it's called shadowing. But the core message of the water bottle is simply this: give your mouth real, physical work every single day. Even 10 focused minutes of speaking out loud is worth so much more than an hour of silent page staring for your actual pronunciation.
10 minutes sounds so doable, Anna. I think a lot of learners hear advice like practice every day, and they imagine needing 3 or 4 hours of dedicated study time, which feels impossible with a busy schedule. But 10 intentional minutes of loud mouth movement, that's something literally everyone can find in their morning.
Absolutely. And that's the whole beautiful point. It's not about the quantity of hours you sit with a textbook. It's about the quality and the physicality of your practice. Your mouth needs to feel what English sounds like from the inside. It needs to feel the position of your tongue, the shape of your lips, the breath behind each sound.
That idea of feeling English from the inside is really interesting to me, Anna. I never thought about it that way before. When I speak my native language, I'm not consciously thinking about where my tongue is sitting. It just happens automatically. And I suppose the goal is to eventually get English to feel that same automatic, effortless, natural way.
Yes, exactly, Abel. And that automatic, natural feeling is precisely what we call muscle memory. When you practice a physical movement enough times, your brain stops consciously directing every little detail, and your body just does it on its own. Think about learning to ride a bicycle. At first, every tiny movement feels enormous and deliberate. Then one day, it simply flows.
Oh, the bicycle example is so relatable, Anna. I clearly remember how completely awkward and terrifying riding a bicycle felt in the beginning. My brain was working so hard to manage everything at once. And then one sudden afternoon, something clicked, and my body just knew what to do. I want that click moment in English so badly.
And you will get it, Abel. I promise you that. And here's the key thing about that click moment. It doesn't happen while you're sitting still thinking about riding the bicycle. It happens through repeated physical action. The same is 100% true for English. Your mouth click moment comes from repeatedly moving your mouth through English sounds every single day.
Exactly, Anna. And that brings me to something I think a lot of learners struggle with, which is stress. I know from personal experience that the moment I feel stressed or embarrassed about my pronunciation, my jaw gets really tight. My tongue feels heavy and slow. It's like my whole face just freezes up and refuses to cooperate.
Oh, Abel, that's such an honest and important thing to name, and I'm so glad you brought it up. Let me share a second analogy that I think will help with exactly that feeling. Imagine a room with two windows. One window faces a cloudy, gray, slightly foggy street outside. The other window looks out onto a beautiful green garden full of warm sunlight.
I love the image already, Anna. I can picture both windows clearly. The gray, foggy street feels heavy and discouraging, and the green, sunny garden feels open and welcoming and calm. I have a feeling that the window you choose to look out of changes how you feel about your own ability to speak English.
Exactly right, Abel. When you stare out the cloudy window of stress and embarrassment and self-judgment, your whole body responds. Your jaw tightens, your shoulders rise, your breath gets shallow, and your mouth muscles stiffen. You feel like your tongue is just too thick and too slow to ever produce smooth English sounds. The stress window makes speaking feel impossible.
Wow, that's so accurate, Anna. I felt that exact physical sensation so many times. It's almost like the stress becomes a physical lock on your face. And I imagine the green garden window represents something completely different, a much kinder and more relaxed way of looking at where you are in your English journey right now.
Beautifully said, Abel. The green garden window helps you see something completely true and completely freeing. Your mouth is simply an untrained muscle. That's all. It's not broken, it's not permanently limited, and you're not failing. You're just at the beginning of a physical training journey that requires relaxed, daily, patient repetition to produce real results.
I genuinely needed to hear that today, Anna. The idea that my mouth is simply untrained rather than permanently broken is such a relief. It removes all the shame from making mistakes. It reframes everything as a natural part of a physical process. And that mental shift alone probably helps the mouth relax and move more freely.
It absolutely does, Abel, because relaxation is not just a nice bonus for language learning. It is literally a physical requirement. A relaxed jaw moves faster. A relaxed tongue is more flexible and more precise. A relaxed mouth produces clearer sounds. So choosing the green garden window and releasing judgment is actually a genuine physical pronunciation technique in itself.
Oh, wow. I love that framing so much, Anna. Relaxation as a pronunciation technique. It completely redefines what good practice looks like. It is not grinding through drills with your teeth clenched. It is breathing gently, dropping your shoulders, softening your jaw, and then moving through English sounds from a place of physical ease and curious exploration.
Yes, and curious exploration is the perfect phrase for it, Abel. Now, I want to move to another really helpful idea, and it involves stepping stones across a river. Imagine you need to cross a wide river, but there is no bridge. The only way across is a line of stepping stones sitting just above the water surface. You cannot jump the whole river in one leap.
Right, Anna, you go one stone at a time. Each stone is a small, safe step forward. And I think the river in this case represents full English fluency, and the stepping stones represent those small daily wins and small consistent practice moments that gradually move you across. You do not need to be on the other bank today.
Exactly, Abel. Each stepping stone is what I love to call a pocket coin of vocal action, a tiny 10-minute investment of physical mouth practice that you collect throughout your normal day. You practice tricky consonant sounds while washing your dishes in the morning. You shadow one speaker for 5 minutes while making your coffee. Small coins, consistent collection.
I really love the pocket coin idea because it removes the pressure of needing a big, dedicated, formal practice session. You're just sprinkling little moments of physical English throughout your ordinary day. Washing dishes becomes a pronunciation gym. Your morning commute becomes a shadowing studio. Every small moment counts as one more stepping stone forward.
Perfectly said, Abel. And that word shadowing that I keep mentioning is really worth pausing on and exploring a little more deeply. Shadowing is when you listen to a native or fluent English speaker and you repeat what they say almost at the exact same time as they say it, or just a tiny fraction of a second behind them. You copy their rhythm, their sounds, their energy.
Oh, I have tried shadowing before, Anna, and it is genuinely challenging at first. Your brain is trying to listen, understand, process, and speak all at the same time. But I can absolutely feel why it is so physically effective. It forces your mouth to produce real English sounds at a real natural pace rather than your own slow, careful, overthought version.
That is such a great personal observation, Abel. And the reason shadowing is so physically powerful is that it bypasses the slow, conscious analysis your brain usually does when you try to speak. You stop overthinking and you start imitating. And imitation is actually one of the oldest and most effective physical learning tools that human beings have ever used.
Yes, Anna, we learned our native language entirely through imitation as children. We did not study grammar charts at age 2. We heard sounds, we loved those sounds, we tried to copy those sounds, we failed many times, we tried again, and eventually the sounds became automatic. There is something beautifully pure about returning to that same natural learning method as an adult.
I love that you brought up childhood learning, Abel, because it connects to something really important. Children do not feel embarrassed when their sounds come out wrong. They just try again with total fearless energy. And one of the most powerful mental tools any adult English learner can pick up is something incredibly simple. It's just one word. The word is yet.
Oh, I know this word has a lot of power, Anna. I've heard about it before, but I would love to hear you connect it specifically to mouth training and pronunciation. Because I'll be completely honest, there is a critical little voice inside my head that sometimes says things like, my tongue is too clumsy for English, or I will never get this sound right.
And that honest admission is exactly where the magic of yet lives, Abel. When your inner voice says, my tongue cannot make this sound, you simply train yourself to add the word yet to the end of that sentence. My tongue cannot make this sound yet. Suddenly, it's no longer a permanent verdict. It's a temporary description of where your mouth is right now in its physical training.
The difference between those two sentences is enormous, Anna. One closes the door completely, and the other leaves it wide open. My tongue cannot make this sound feels final and hopeless. My tongue cannot make this sound yet feels like progress is already happening in the background, like the muscle is quietly building even when I'm not fully aware of it.
Beautifully described, Abel. And the beautiful truth is that the muscle is building in the background. Every single time you attempt a difficult English sound, even imperfectly, even messily, you are creating a tiny new neural pathway in your brain. Your brain is learning to coordinate new muscle movements. The attempt itself is the training, not just the perfect result.
That is incredibly reassuring to hear, Anna. So every messy attempt, every stumbled syllable, every word that comes out a little bit wrong is actually valuable physical data that my brain is quietly using to calibrate and improve the next attempt. The imperfect attempts are not wasted time. They are literally the mechanism of progress itself.
100% able. And this connects perfectly to an idea that I want every single listener to really hold on to tightly. Your living room is not an examination room. Say that with me for a moment. Your living room, or your kitchen, or your bedroom, or wherever you practice, is not a formal examination room with a strict, invisible judge hiding behind the sofa with a red pen.
Oh, Anna, the image of a judge hiding behind the sofa with a red pen is both funny and so relatable, because that's genuinely how many learners feel when they practice alone. There's this imaginary critical audience watching and grading every single imperfect sound. And that imaginary audience is completely 100% fictional. It doesn't exist anywhere except inside our own minds.
Exactly right, Abel. And when you release that imaginary judge, something physically remarkable happens. Your jaw drops to its natural, relaxed position. Your tongue stops gripping the roof of your mouth with tension. Your voice comes out fuller and rounder. The sounds actually improve simply because the fear of judgment is no longer physically constricting your face muscles as you speak.
Wow, so the act of giving yourself genuine private permission to sound messy is itself a pronunciation improvement strategy. That feels almost counterintuitive at first, but it makes complete physical sense when you think about it. A tight, fearful mouth produces stiff and unclear sounds. A relaxed, playful, fearless mouth produces so much rounder and more natural English.
Yes, and I love the word playful that you just used, Abel. Play is such an underestimated part of language learning for adults. Children learn language through play. They experiment with sounds the way they experiment with colors when they're painting. There is no wrong color on a blank page. There is no wrong sound in a private practice session. Everything is useful exploration.
That reframing is so freeing, Anna. Practice becomes play, mistakes become experiments, and private practice sessions become a creative physical exploration of what your mouth can do. I think if more learners approach their pronunciation practice with that kind of playful, curious, zero-judgment energy, they would make progress so much faster and enjoy the process so much more.
Absolutely, Abel. And now I want to talk about something that many learners resist initially, but that makes a massive physical difference. And that is deliberately slowing down your speaking pace during practice. I sometimes call it walking with a slow friend. Imagine you are strolling along on a warm afternoon with a friend who walks very gently and steadily.
I love that image, Anna. A slow afternoon walk with a friend feels easy and enjoyable and completely unpressured. You are not racing to a destination, you are simply moving forward together at a comfortable, relaxed pace. And I can immediately see how that maps onto speaking practice. When you slow down, everything about speaking becomes more manageable and more precise.
Exactly, Abel. When you slow your physical speaking pace during practice, your jaw has time to open fully for each vowel sound. Your tongue has time to reach its correct position for each consonant. Your lips have time to form their proper shapes. You are giving every single muscle group the time it needs to complete its movement correctly before rushing to the next one.
Ah, that is such a practical physical insight, Anna. So rushing through English words at full speed during practice is a bit like trying to learn a new dance move at performance speed before your body has ever slowly walked through each individual step. You need to break it down slowly first so the muscles can learn each piece of the movement separately.
Perfect analogy, Abel. And the beautiful thing is that as you slow down and your muscles learn each movement clearly, your confident fluency starts to arrive naturally, not as a sudden dramatic breakthrough, but gradually, calmly, like that slow friend who eventually arrives at the destination right alongside you. The speed comes naturally after the muscle memory is solid.
So the slow practice is not a sign of being behind or being slow as a learner. It is actually the exact right method for building accurate muscle memory. Going slow and clear in private practice is what creates fast and fluid in real conversation later. That is a really important distinction that I think a lot of learners genuinely need to hear.
It really is able. And alongside slowing down, there's another deeply practical thing I want to talk about, which is the vocabulary we choose to practice with. Imagine a kitchen knife. You have two options. One is a beautiful, very ornate, heavy, decorative knife covered in complicated engravings. The other is a simple, clean, razor-sharp knife that cuts through anything effortlessly.
Oh, I can already see where this is going, Anna, and I love it. The complicated decorative knife represents trying to practice your pronunciation using long, impressive, fancy vocabulary words right from the start, and the clean, sharp knife represents focusing on simple, high-frequency, everyday expressions that your mouth needs to use in real daily conversation most of the time.
Exactly right, Abel. When a beginner or even an intermediate learner tries to immediately practice with complicated academic vocabulary, a few things happen. The heavy words create mental fog. Your brain is so busy trying to remember the meaning and the spelling that it has very little processing space left to actually focus on the physical mouth movements and the sounds.
Yes, Anna, I have experienced that mental fog so clearly. When I try to say a word that I'm not fully comfortable with yet, my brain gets so busy internally managing the word itself that my mouth sort of goes stiff and uncertain. Everything slows down in an unproductive way. But with words I know well, my mouth moves so much more freely and naturally.
Beautifully observed, Abel. So the clean knife approach means building your physical mouth training practice around the simple, high-frequency daily expressions that you already know very well in meaning. Things like, thank you so much, I was just thinking. Actually, that's a great point. I completely agree. Short, clear, common, powerful phrases that your mouth can practice moving through smoothly.
And I imagine that once your mouth has trained itself on those clean, simple, high-frequency phrases, the muscle memory and the physical confidence you build carries forward into more complex language later. You are building a strong, flexible physical foundation first. The fancy vocabulary can come and sit on top of that solid foundation naturally over time.
100% able. The foundation of physical mouth confidence comes from simple, repeated, fluent production of everyday language. And this is something I really want our listeners to remember as they plan their own daily practice. You do not need to shadow a complicated academic lecture to train your mouth. A simple, clear daily conversation podcast is absolutely perfect.
Oh, and speaking of podcasts, Anna, I think what we are doing right here in this very episode is actually a perfect example of clean knife practice material. The language is clear, the pace is deliberate and relaxed, the expressions are all common daily life English. A learner could shadow us right now and get beautiful, practical, physical mouth training from this very conversation.
Abel, that is such a lovely and completely accurate point. And that brings me to something I want to weave in naturally here, which is a deeper look at some of the specific words that we have been using throughout today's conversation. These are words that relate directly to the physical act of training your mouth, and understanding them makes your practice so much richer.
Oh, I love this, Anna. Let us go through them together. I think one of the most important ones we keep using is the word articulation. I would describe articulation as the physical act of forming words clearly and precisely with your mouth parts, your lips, teeth, tongue, and jaw. Is that how you would define it too, or would you add anything to that?
That is a beautiful and precise definition, Abel. Yes, articulation is exactly that clear physical formation of sounds using your mouth structure. And a rich daily life example sentence for articulation might be something like this. The drama teacher told her students that strong articulation means letting your lips and tongue shape every single syllable with clean, deliberate, physical intention.
That is a wonderful example sentence, Anna. The next word I want to explore is cadence. Cadence is a word I find really beautiful. I would describe it as the natural rhythm and flow of speech, the rise and fall, the speed changes, the patterns of stress that make English sound musical and human rather than flat and robotic.
Am I close?
You are absolutely spot on, Abel. Cadence is that beautiful musicality and rhythm in speech. A lovely daily life example sentence for cadence could be this. When Abel listened carefully to the podcast host, he noticed that her natural English cadence had a gentle rising and falling rhythm that made every sentence feel warm, clear, and incredibly easy to follow and understand.
Oh, I love that example sentence, Anna. Now let us look at coordination, because it is such a core part of what mouth training actually is. I think coordination in speaking terms means the brain and mouth working together smoothly and simultaneously to produce sounds at the right time, in the right order, with the right physical movements all happening at once.
Perfect description, Abel. Coordination in speaking is essentially the synchronized teamwork between your brain and all your mouth muscles. A strong daily life example sentence might be this. Achieving smooth English pronunciation is really a matter of building better coordination between your thinking brain and the physical muscles of your tongue, lips, jaw, and even your breath control system.
That example really captures the complexity of what seems like such a simple thing, Anna. The next one is a term we have mentioned several times today, and I want to give it a really solid definition. Muscle memory, in the context of English speaking, means the process by which your mouth muscles learn to produce specific sounds automatically through repetition, without needing conscious thought each time.
Beautifully and precisely defined, Abel. Muscle memory is truly the ultimate goal of all physical mouth training. A wonderful daily life example sentence for muscle memory might be this. After 3 months of shadowing short English podcast episodes every single morning, Maria noticed that her mouth had developed muscle memory for the most common sounds, and her pronunciation felt effortless and automatic for the first time.
Oh, wow, that example really paints a picture of what consistent practice looks like over real time, Anna. Now let us revisit shadowing properly, because it deserves its own clean definition in this word review. Shadowing means listening to a speaker and simultaneously or near simultaneously repeating everything they say, copying their sounds, rhythms, stress, and pace as closely as possible.
Perfect definition, Abel. Shadowing is one of the most physically complete pronunciation practice methods ever developed. A rich daily life example sentence for shadowing might be this. Every morning before work, James puts in his earphones, plays his favorite English podcast, and spends exactly 10 minutes shadowing the hosts, repeating every phrase immediately after hearing it to physically train his mouth muscles.
I love that example because it is so practical and realistic, Anna. It sounds like something a real person with a real busy life could absolutely do. Now let us look at utterance, which is a slightly more technical word but a really useful one. I would describe an utterance as any complete unit of spoken language, a word, a phrase, or a full sentence that is produced out loud by a speaker.
That's a great definition, Abel. An utterance is essentially any complete spoken unit of language. A useful daily life example sentence for utterance might be this. The language coach encouraged her student to record one short utterance every single day, even if it was just a single confident sentence, because hearing your own voice regularly is one of the most powerful tools for noticing and improving your pronunciation.
Recording your own utterances is such powerful advice, Anna. Hearing yourself back is genuinely surprising the first few times in a very informative way. The final word I want to look at is stamina. And in the context of speaking English, I think vocal stamina means the physical ability to speak clearly, fluidly, and confidently for extended periods without your mouth muscles tiring or your voice losing its clarity and strength.
Absolutely perfect, Abel. Vocal stamina is a real physical quality that develops over time through consistent practice, exactly like physical endurance in sport. A wonderful daily life example sentence for stamina might be this. Before joining the English Conversation Club, David found that his mouth felt tired and his pronunciation suffered after just 5 minutes of speaking. But after 2 months of daily shadowing practice, his vocal stamina had improved dramatically.
Oh, that example about David really resonates with me personally, Anna. I remember early in my English speaking journey feeling exactly that kind of physical vocal fatigue. My mouth just wasn't conditioned yet, but consistent practice truly does build that stamina over time. The mouth really is a muscle, and like any muscle, it responds beautifully to regular, intentional, progressive training.
And those 7 words, articulation, cadence, coordination, muscle memory, shadowing, utterance, and stamina, are really the core vocabulary toolkit of anyone who is serious about physically training their mouth to speak English more fluently. Understanding these terms helps learners talk about their own practice intelligently and identify specifically which part of their physical speaking they want to work on.
I completely agree, Anna. Having precise language for the different elements of speaking practice is genuinely empowering. It helps you move from the vague feeling of I just need to get better at speaking to the much more focused and actionable awareness of I need to specifically work on my cadence this week, or I need to build more coordination between my listening and my speaking output.
Beautifully said, Abel. And I think it's time now for you to give our wonderful listeners a really clear, comprehensive summary of everything we've talked through today, because we've covered so much ground, and I want every single person listening to walk away with a clear, practical, deeply encouraging picture of exactly how to start physically training their mouth from this very day forward.
Absolutely, Anna. It would be my genuine pleasure to bring it all together. So here's the full summary of everything we have explored today for training your mouth to speak English through physical practice. First, remember that your daily vocal energy is like a fresh bottle of water. Drink it intentionally by pouring it into 10 minutes of loud, active speaking practice every morning, rather than letting it drain away through silent reading alone.
Oh, beautiful, Abel. Please keep going. This is wonderful.
Thank you, Anna. Second, choose the green garden window over the cloudy street. Release the stress and the self-judgment that physically tighten your jaw and stiffen your tongue, because a relaxed mouth produces cleaner, more natural English sounds. Your mouth isn't broken, it is simply untrained, and training takes patient, gentle, daily physical repetition done from a place of genuine calm and self-kindness.
That is so important to reinforce. What comes next, Abel?
Third, collect your pocket coins of vocal action throughout your ordinary day. Shadow a podcast for 5 minutes while making breakfast. Practice a tricky consonant cluster while washing the dishes. Repeat a useful phrase while walking to the bus stop. Every small 10-minute stepping stone moves you one step closer across the river toward natural, confident English fluency. You do not need to cross the whole river in one jump.
Wonderful, Abel. That is such a practical and encouraging reminder for busy learners everywhere.
Fourth, use the clean knife approach. Build your physical mouth confidence by practicing with simple, high-frequency, everyday English expressions that you already understand well in meaning. Leave the heavy, complicated vocabulary for later, when your mouth has already built a solid physical foundation. A clear, simple utterance spoken with great confidence is far more powerful than a complex word mumbled with uncertainty and tension.
100% Abel. And what about the word yet and the no judge behind the sofa ideas?
Yes, Anna, those are so important. Fifth, whenever your inner critical voice tells you that your mouth cannot produce a certain English sound, add the word yet to the end of that sentence. My tongue cannot do this. Yet. That one small word transforms a permanent-sounding verdict into an honest description of temporary progress in motion. Sixth, remind yourself regularly and warmly that your living room is not an examination room. No invisible judge with a red pen is grading your private practice sessions. Messy, imperfect, exploratory sounds made in private are not failures. They are the exact physical mechanism through which your brain builds new coordination and muscle memory. Give yourself full, joyful, genuine permission to sound imperfect while you practice.
Oh, Abel, that is so beautifully and compassionately put. And the final point about pace.
Yes, seventh and finally, walk with your slow friend.
Deliberately slow down your speaking pace during practice sessions so that your jaw, your tongue, and your lips each have sufficient time to reach their correct physical positions for every sound. Speed is the natural result of well-built muscle memory, not the tool you use to build it. Go slowly, go clearly, go consistently, and the confident, fluent cadence will arrive right alongside you, like a gentle and deeply reliable walking companion on a warm, unhurried afternoon.
Abel, that summary was genuinely magnificent, and I think our listeners are going to replay that section many times. Thank you so much for pulling all of those threads together so clearly and so warmly. And now, I want to turn directly to every single wonderful person who has been listening to us today, because I have a very specific community question for you.
Oh, I love our community questions, Anna. I always find the answers in the comments so inspiring and so revealing about the real, honest daily challenges that learners are working through.
Right. And here is the question for today. I want you to go to the comments section right now and drop one word or phrase in English that always makes your tongue trip when you try to say it out loud. Just one word or one phrase that feels physically tricky in your mouth. And then I want you to promise yourself that you are going to practice that exact word or phrase out loud at least 5 times today.
Oh, I think that is such a powerful micro-challenge, Anna, because it takes the lesson from today and immediately converts it into one single specific physical action. It is one pocket coin of vocal action that every listener can collect in the next 5 minutes. I am genuinely looking forward to reading all of those comments and seeing which sounds and words are giving our community the most interesting physical challenges.
Me too, Abel, absolutely. And remember, our community of English learners is one of the warmest and most supportive spaces on the internet. So please share your tricky word or phrase in the comments without any embarrassment at all, because every single person in that comment section is on the same physical training journey as you are. No one is judging. Everyone is cheering.
That is the spirit, Anna. And what I love about today's episode is that it has genuinely reframed what it means to practice English speaking. It is not about being perfect. It's not about sounding like a native speaker overnight. It is about showing up with your mouth, your breath, your jaw, and your courage every single day, and giving those mouth muscles the regular, intentional, patient physical training they need and deserve.
Perfectly said, Abel. And I want to say one more thing to every listener before we close. Progress in physical mouth training is happening even on the days when you cannot hear it clearly in your own voice yet. Trust the process, trust the repetition, trust the muscle memory that your brain is quietly building in the background every single time you open your mouth and try. The results will come, and they will surprise you beautifully.
That is such a gorgeous closing thought, Anna. I'm going to carry that with me personally. Progress is happening even on the days when you cannot hear it yet. That is genuinely one of the most encouraging things you can tell a language learner, and I think it is completely and scientifically true. Every attempt, every imperfect utterance, every shadowing session is doing invisible work that will eventually become very visible and very audible.
Absolutely, Abel. And on that beautiful and deeply encouraging note, I think it's time to close today's episode. What an extraordinary and rich conversation this has been. To every single English learner who spent this time with us today, thank you from the very bottom of our hearts. Keep your bottle of water full, keep choosing the green garden window, keep collecting your pocket coins, keep using your yet, and keep walking forward with your slow, steady, wonderful friend called fluency.
Beautifully closed, Anna. And thank you to every single listener who showed up today and gave their time and attention to this conversation. Please do share this episode with a friend or a family member who is also on their English-speaking journey, because the best way to grow your own English is to grow it alongside people you love. We will see you in the next episode, and until then, keep training that mouth.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep speaking with confidence and ease. This is Anna.
And this is Abel. And you have been listening to the Mr. English Fluent Tutor Podcast. Bye-bye. Take care.
And hey, before you go, do not stop your English progress here. Click the next video right now and keep your language journey moving forward smoothly. We have so much more wonderful English learning waiting for you. See you there.